Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis Damian Podcast, episode 66. We're available on anchor.fm/Travis Damian Podcast, on with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. If you guys would like to ask us any questions, you can leave a voice message at the anchor link or in the YouTube comment section. Today is going to be a quick episode, some gaming news such as the Switch OLED model and the Steam Deck announced, then our recent activities in gaming/anime. Lastly, our thoughts on the newest MCU projects of Black Widow and Loki Season 1. So first up, the Nintendo Switch OLED model was announced shortly after we released our podcast episode. And yeah, this was a very surprising announcement, I will say. I think a lot of people were expecting a sort of Switch Pro, if you will. But obviously, this is not it. I think that people were setting their expectations a little too high. And I think that what we got is sort of very Nintendo of them. I'm not saying that you can't be upset about there not being any hardware updates or anything like that, because personally I am kind of upset about that, the fact that they are releasing this and no real like hardware updates or anything like that, because I think that because of how old the Switch is now, there should have been at least some sort of bump up within frame rate or graphics or whatever, just because there's no reason to really buy this as a current Switch owner, especially since I think that there's probably this like random statistic out there, but I'm just gonna like guess here that it's like 70 to like 80% of people use it docked, just because of not just the pandemic, but also just like they use it as a console and not as a portable device. But you know, there are some new features about it, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Damien, what are your quick thoughts on the OLED model announced?
So yeah, a lot of people, kind of suspected like a new model of the Switch would come out just because of all like the rumors with the 4K screen and all the other features, more power and SSD and all that crazy stuff. Honestly, that didn't really happen. I mean, now the leakers are like, oh yeah, this is what we meant all the time, but probably not. So yeah, really all we're getting is like a better screen, not even a better screen, but like a bigger one with a different, it's not LED, it's OLED now. It also has a Ethernet cable now. Like you could like directly plug it. Like you don't need a extra low dongle anymore. So that's kind of cool. I think the Switch itself looks kind of neat. Like I like the white and stuff. Like it looks nice. The new dock also looks pretty nice. But for the most part, I think this is more for people that don't have a Switch yet and want a Switch. It's like not a lot of reasons for us, people that already have the old Switch model to really jump at this. It's not like the new 3DS XL where, you could really tell the difference in size just because I like to have the DS be a little bigger than it is. For the Switch, it isn't making it bigger, it's just making the screen bigger. And again, both of us don't really play it portably too much. We mostly play it docked anyway. So I don't really see a point in this. Again, the only cool feature is the Ethernet cable being like right into the Switch. That's pretty cool. But again, I don't think that's worth like what, the 350 or 300. I forgot how much this thing is. I think it's 350 for this thing. Again, cool if like you actually want a Switch and you don't have one yet. I'll probably say get this over the Switch Lite. But as of right now, I don't see a lot of reason for existing Switch owners to get this. So
Yeah, I don't see any reason for myself to buy it unless you're like a heavy user of playing it portably, which I know that there are obviously like it's not 100% of people that keep it docked only. There are a few select, maybe even a lot of people that play it portably frequently. So if you have a Switch and maybe it's dying a little or whatever the case is, you can buy this new one, and I think that it would be a valid purchase in my eyes. I do like the all white sort of thing and the curved dock. I think that is pretty cool. But yeah, the new features other than the OLED screen, there is a better kickstand, which is very, very much needed. The fact that the original kickstand is just a little piece of plastic that just sort of sticks out was always sus to me, and I never trusted that. But to those people that do want to play this in tabletop mode, now you actually have a pretty good stand to work with, as it is now the entire back of the Switch. But yeah, for $350, bigger internal storage, 64 gigabytes now, which I think that even if you download all your games, I think 64 gigs would be a pretty good amount. But obviously, if you literally only have the Switch and you're buying all of your games on there, external storage is going to be needed. But there's going to be better speakers if you happen to play the Switch without headphones, which is,
I don't know why.
I'm going to say that's a little psychotic, playing that without headphones in, especially when you're traveling on a bus, train, plane, whatever the case is, but better speakers if you happen happen to use those often. But yeah, 350 is the price tag. And, I think that a lot of people were hoping for this one to just be 300 and them to just like phase out the old model. But obviously Nintendo is doing well with the Nintendo Switch as is. So just giving people more options to work with is going to get them more money in the long run. So, having this, I guess, higher end model is fine. But there's no reason for existing Switch owners to get it personally, in my personal opinion, I should say. But I think that there is definitely a crowd, and obviously like this thing has already sold out in pre-orders, I'm pretty sure. So, Nintendo's still doing what Nintendo does, if you will. People will complain that, like this is not what I expected, but it'll still sell extremely well.
Yeah, of course it's gonna sell extremely well because that's just how Nintendo does it. And I was a person that had like what 3 DSs. I had 2 DS. I had the DS, the DS Lite, and when the 3DS came out, I had the 3DS. The 3DS XL and then the new 3DS XL, and then I got the 2DS later. So I bought a lot of like portable consoles and stuff, but for this one I don't really see the need of it. Like just the Switch in general is like, I guess because it just seems more like a pain in the ass to like transfer things over, and like mostly because the Switch Lite was also weird where you couldn't dock it either. The Switch just doesn't seem worth it. So yeah, this time around, I'm definitely not being like a Nintendo simp and just like buying like every new model they release because there's no point. So yeah, until they release either a Switch 2 or Switch Pro, which I doubt is going to happen at this point, I'll just wait for that. And we kind of are nearing the Switch's like ending of life. It's already in its 4th year, is going to its 5th year. I say it has like maybe 3 more years in it before like they probably have to like actually do an upgrade in its hardware. But I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see until that actually happens because. Again, this is only really good for people that don't really own a Switch and weren't too into the Switch Lite with like not docking or anything. So this is a good alternative if you have like the extra like $50 to spend on it. So yeah,
definitely. It has a crowd for it, if you will.
Yeah, it definitely has a crowd. Some people are excited for it, but not me.
Same.
All right. So speaking of I guess Nintendo, you got Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl. So this game came out of nowhere, first of all, and it's basically Nicktoons Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. They showed a bunch of characters. Got a lot of people from SpongeBob. You got people like Invader Zim. I think what's his name? Reptar.
Yeah,
Reptar in there. Yeah, and you are probably gonna get some Avatar characters. I don't think they showed any yet, but yeah, basically it is a Smash Brothers game with Nickelodeon characters, and apparently it's made by the people who made Slap City, which is apparently a pretty good Smash Brothers indie game. Well, I guess platform fighter is what they're actually called. And I heard nothing but good things about that game, and they are making this game as well. And apparently, it's going to be having robot netcode as well in certain platforms. So that's probably meaning PC and maybe like PlayStation or something. I highly doubt the Switch version will have robot netcode, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, it seems like they really are like trying to make this game as good as it can, even though it's like a Nickelodeon licensed game. So that's good on them. And from what the gameplay they showed, I mean, yeah, this is Smash Brothers with Nickelodeon characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my favorite part about this announcement was just all of the memes on Twitter. Like they were just
so good. So good.
Yeah, they're all very good, and also there was just a lot of them that I was just laughing and cracking up to. But the game itself, I mean, I think that when you put it together, there hasn't been a I guess like high profile like Smash clone with like really high profile IPs since PlayStation All Stars. So it has been a very long time since we've seen a high profile Smash clone, and I think that this one being Nickelodeon characters with the meme culture of SpongeBob and everyone else, get the goddamn Nigel from the Wild Thornberry. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot going on here, and I think that a lot of people are going to be excited just to have I guess another Smash Brothers like game to play with Nickelodeon characters to boot. The roster that they've shown so far is, I would say, decent. Obviously Nickelodeon has a lot of characters and a lot of IPs that they could pull from. They haven't touched any of the Avatar characters, but I think that a lot of people would like to see at least one Avatar representative, one of them, Aang or Korra. and several other IPs that I can't name on the top of my head. But, you know, the Ninja Turtles are in here because of the Nickelodeon shows and also because Nickelodeon owns the Ninja Turtles, aka Viacom. So, you know, having them in here, two of them, is pretty good. Graphically, you know, it's as best as it's gonna look in my opinion as a third party sort of, you know, title. I think that this game, the fact that it has rollback netcode, has a lot of people interested in it, and I think that there's like wave dashing or something like that.
I think there was wave dashing. I don't know if that was a meme or not.
Yeah, see, like, I don't know if that was a meme either, but when this game comes out, there's gonna be a lot of people playing it, and I'm sure that this is gonna do a lot better than the devs expected. And yeah, I'm probably gonna be buying this when it comes out later this year. On which platform? Probably the Switch. It seems a little dumb to buy it on the Switch, but that's the platform that I believe our friend group has, like all of us together. It's not coming to PC yet, but I am crossing my fingers for it to come to PC because I think that, you know, mods could be very funny, but also, you know, having it on PC with rollback netcode could be very, very good. So
yeah, it's just like, I just hope like they just literally just make it Smash Brothers. Like I feel like what kills a lot of other like platform fighters is like they try to do something different with like KOing people. Like again, I think that's why PlayStation All Stars just sucked because you have to have like a super and then you could knock people out, which was really dumb. If that game was just straight up Smash Brothers with Sony characters, it would have been amazing, right?
Yeah.
I hope this game just also has the percentage stuff and like you just, you know, knock people out and then you win, like just but with, you know, Nickelodeon characters. That's all they gotta do, and then you probably got something pretty good. You know, I also make this game does make me want Sony to try PlayStation All Stars again because I would love that. I think PlayStation has so many good characters, and you know, I never played PlayStation All Stars because, you know, it sucked. But if they actually did make a good one, I would be super down for it. You know, I would love to like do Ratchet versus Jack. You know, that's always been like a thing I want to do and stuff, and it being like good to boot, that would just be sick. So. Hopefully this game sparks like a big wave of people actually want to make good like platform fighters like this and not like just like, I guess like leave it to just Nintendo to do them. So yeah, so honestly, hopefully it's good because it is pretty exciting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that like Microsoft and PlayStation aren't, you know, behind the scenes talking about this game in some way just because of how much of a splash that it has made on the gaming community and on social media. But yeah, I think that PlayStation All Stars with you know the new characters that we got like Aloy and you know, Last of Us characters, I think that could be very, very cool. And, you know, despite what people may say about Microsoft, you know, they might not have a lot of exclusive console games, but they do have a lot of studios and a lot of IPs under their belt. So they could do something like this as well. But, you know, I think that it really depends on this game's success, I feel, because if this game flops or it ends up being, you know, really, really bad, both of them theoretically are going to pull out if they are talking about it behind the scenes or whatever, you know, like obviously like this is me speculating, but yeah, I think that,
yeah, you're right.
I think that this game could, you know, make a big splash within, the gaming sphere this upcoming fall. So
yeah, it hopefully does. Cause, I would like to see more of these type of games with different properties.
All right. The last announcement we got here is the Steam Deck. So pretty much everyone on Twitter was just memeing this at hey, you know, like if Steam, you know, we'll just make the Switch Pro ourselves. But like, obviously, you know, Nintendo never competes with PC ever or like anyone. They literally stay in their own lane. But anyways, the Steam Deck, this is pretty much the PC handheld console that Steam is creating. And the price point, the lowest one is $399, so $400 for 64 gigs. If you want to go to 256, it's $529. That is, I believe, double or not even double. That's more than double, right? 64.
That's like
64
triple,
times 2. Yeah, that is actually triple. Yeah, that's literally or no, wait, what the heck? Wait.
Math.
Quick math real quick, guys. That is 4 times the amount of storage. So I don't know why there's no like middle ground there, you know, like 128 or something like that. But anyways, and then you have 256, which is 529, and then 512, which is 649. So I think that the market that this is going for is, I'm not going to say non-existent, but it is extremely niche. I think that there are definitely very few people out there that want to game portably and also want to game with PC titles in particular and actually have them run good and not on the Nintendo Switch. So I think that, like the obviously point of entry is $400, which is a lot to begin with. And if you already have a gaming PC, there's no real point for you to really buy this other than the fact that you can play the Steam library of games on this sort of device, right?
Right.
So like if you don't have a PC, this could be good for you because they're also going to sell a dock separately at a later date, I'm pretty sure. So you could hook this up to a monitor, and I believe you could also hook up a mouse and keyboard so you could actually have like the full PC gaming experience without having to, worry about parts or having to worry about building it or whatever the case is. You could just have this one device and then also take it portably with you if you happen to travel a lot. So I think that just like with the OLED model, the Steam Deck definitely has its sort of audience. And I think that a lot of people are going to be trying this out because it does look very promising to them. And also just exciting that, Valve is finally, probably the biggest company within the PC gaming sphere to jump into the handheld PC, handheld thing, whatever, because handheld PC gaming devices have been around for a couple of years now. I believe Razer has done a couple and some other companies, but now Valve's sort of going into this on their own and they're selling it directly through Steam as well. So yeah, it is pretty exciting, I will say.
Yeah. So I mean, there are uses for this, like you were saying. Like I would probably use this for more like roguelike type games, like like Hades, Isaac, Gungeon, like that. Those are things I like playing on my Switch, to begin with. But I'll be able to use my save data from my Steam version because it's probably gonna do cloud stuff. So
Yep.
that sounds pretty cool. Like, I could play my current Isaac file from my PC, which I have like 400 hours in. I could just play that portably now instead of just playing on Switch where I have to start scratch. So that's cool. But like besides that, I don't really see much point. Again, I don't really play on my Switch like portably too much anyway, and I would just play it on my PC. So it's not really like a right audience for me anyway. Like, I could play Final Fantasy 14 on my bed. Like that's kind of cool. But like I guess that is cool, but it's also like I don't really need it. I will say this is probably a good replacement for like a gaming laptop or something, because gaming laptops are kind of shit. So like if you could just get this instead, I think that's a better alternative. Since again it's way more portable. Obviously it can't do as much. It could only play games, but if that's all you're really bringing your gaming laptop to do, then I think this is a nice alternative because again it's like tinier and it just seems more pleasant to like just play on. If what you're gonna play is more about like button controls, then it should be fine. Like I don't see myself playing like Civ on this thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's definitely novel and definitely has its place. If it ever goes like on like a deep discount for like 150 $200 like a few years down the road, I might buy one just to have it. But for right now, it's not really for me, but I could see how this could excite a lot of people because, being able to play these games on the go with your save files from Steam and just having your whole Steam library just like there, that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. And as someone with like over like 500 something games on Steam, that's a pretty neat thing to have. But yeah, for me personally, it doesn't really appeal to me at the moment. But again, I could see how it's pretty cool. And I think having like a more powerful Switch again is what people really want anyway. And if you want to play like the newest AAA games like Far Cry 6 or whatever, and you want to bring that with you on the go, then yeah, this is what you want to get now. So
Yeah, and I think that the way that Steam is doing the sort of like pre-order system is very interesting. So
yeah,
starting today, so if you're listening to this, you can hopefully still do it, but pretty much what you got to do is that you have to reserve it by putting a $5 deposit down, and then when it is available to order, Valve would let you know, and then if you decide to order one, they will put the $5 towards the order. And I'm not sure what will happen if you decide to not order it for whatever the reason is. But yeah, it'll start shipping out December later this year. So that is actually kind of close, gonna be honest, for something that was literally just announced yesterday or whatever. But yeah, I think that that in and of itself is just, I guess, Steam, obviously, and Valve in general, just looking at how, things have been going recently with pre-orders, and I'm sure that also went into account of them just like making this thing, probably looking at how Razer did their portable PC handhelds, and how the Switch did it. Obviously, obviously not as powerful, but they likely looked at the Switch and why people like it so much. And the fact that there is a dock for this is very clear that they were like, hey, like people like the handheld thing, but they also like the option of being able to plug it into a TV or into a monitor to sort of, have that, I guess, at home or, a somewhat PC setup. So yeah, I think that if you have not ever tried PC gaming yet, I think that this is probably a good way to start off, especially because Steam has a pretty good amount of games to play with. And obviously you can't play like the free-to-play games like League of Legends or Valorant or can you play Fortnite on Steam? I'm not sure.
No, you can't. I think that's only Epic.
But, Fortnite's on literally everything, so you shouldn't really be too concerned with that. But if you want to dip your toes into PC gaming, I think that this is probably a pretty good way to start off with, especially since all you have to do is just buy the Steam Deck, and then you don't have to worry about anything else. This is literally just a thing that comes out of the box. So you don't have to worry about parts or anything like that, having to build it yourself or get someone else to build it for you. This is definitely a sort of, you buy it and then you play with it sort of thing, which I think a lot of people like, which is why, console gaming is still a prevalent thing today with PlayStation and Switch. You just buy it, you plug it in, and then you get to, have your fun. So
yeah, the ease of access is always going to be like really appealing to a lot of people. But I think this Steam Deck is going to do a lot better than the Steam Machine did, which was something very similar to the Steam Deck, but it was just like a console, and it kind of failed pretty badly because no one really wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the Steam Deck just has a lot more utility, just like the Switch does. And as a result, I do think it's going to do a lot better for Valve. And I don't know if Valve's going to continue going into the whole console market because it seems like they're still very interested in it. So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually become a full-blown like console like threat to the other three.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it, but maybe it could happen. So maybe they do want to make like Steam games or PC games just more accessible to a lot of people. So that'll be very interesting to see, and it all kind of hinges on this like succeeding. So yeah, very interesting to see what Valve's going to do next year.
I mean, yeah, that is a very good point and a very good idea to bring up because if you look at it, when it comes to PC gaming, Valve kind of has, I wouldn't say a monopoly on the market, but they
pretty
have
close to it.
Yeah, they have a pretty good chunk of the market. And, Epic Games is sort of dipping into that with their own sort of storefront, which is nice to see competition there. But them now trying to go into console gaming themselves, they obviously have the funds and the resources to do it. So if they are going to potentially compete among the big three, that'll be very, very interesting.
Yep.
All right, so now let's get into our recent activities. I'll actually go first because a lot of the stuff I can't really talk about in depth because, spoilers. So I watched a movie in theaters, surprise, surprise, A Quiet Place Part 2. I re-signed up for A-List because I was like, well, I'm fully vaccinated, and this movie is sort of nearing the end of its sort of running in theaters. So I was like, all right, I might as well see it in theaters. I believe now it's available on Paramount Plus. But I think seeing a movie like this in theaters is, and I think seeing any movie in theaters, no matter how good or how bad it is, obviously enhances the experience. So seeing A Quiet Place Part 2 in theaters was very, very fun, very, very enjoyable. The fact that this was my first movie back into theaters in over a year was very, very nice. And I liked it just as much as Part 1. I'm not going to say more because I think Part 1, I sort of went into that not expecting anything. But obviously when you go into a sequel, you're expecting it to be just as good. And it was. So I enjoyed what Part 2 brought to the table in sort of expanding the story. The My Hero manga, just because of how the anime is doing it, I sort of had to read ahead. So yeah, it's still good. I like My Hero in the manga just because I get to read it at my own pace and sort of also get ahead of the anime watchers. So now I know what's going to happen in the anime and sort of see what cool moments are going to happen. Yep. I'm a goddamn manga reader. Eden Zero. This is a manga that I recently picked back up again. This is the sort of shonen title about from the same guy that did Fairy Tail, but now he's doing this one where it's a space adventure sort of odyssey where, you know, they're going across space and time or whatever. And, you know, there's the main character, Shiki. He's pretty much all about friends and friendship because he has no friends and he values friendship a lot. You know, a very, you know, anime thing to do. And then there's a bunch of, you know, fan service shots and, you know, some scenes, you know, whatever, you know, like I honestly try to get past that stuff because I'm just like, all right, whatever, you know, you know, like this guy wants to aim sort of like that demographic of, you know, anime people, and I'm just like, all right, whatever, just get me to like the decent story that this one is telling. You know, I like it. It's a fun shonen. I'm not exactly, you know, it's definitely not on the same level as like My Hero even or Demon Slayer, but it's definitely a fun shonen that I like to read. And I believe the anime series is going to come to Netflix later this year, so I'm interested to see how much that'll pop off. I'm not sure because it really does look very similar to Fairy Tail, and Fairy Tail already has, you know, a reputation within the anime community as is, so I'll leave it at that. The Your Name light novel, I read a couple more chapters. There's not much I could really say about that because, you know, it's just a spin-off about, you know, expanding the storylines and sort of the personality of the other characters, including Taki and Mizuhara, but also the other side characters as well. But, you know, it's good. I like it.
All right. So for my things, you know, I don't have a lot here either. I beat Mass Effect 3, so I finished all the Mass Effects now. And I could say, yeah, I think Mass Effect 3 is really good. I definitely think, you know, a lot of people are now saying that, yeah, Mass Effect 3 is really good. And, you know, obviously the ending, which I'm going to talk about, well, not in detail because obviously I can't, but I'll talk about it a little bit. I think most of it was very good. Actually, like 2/3 of it is very good, and the last third is okay. You know, the first two, like, quarters of the game are just bang on. Like everything is great about it. I think they conclude a lot of the story arcs really well. The characters are fantastic in this game. Like even Baron 1 and 2, like they really nailed almost everything about it. But then you have the overarching stuff with the human stuff, like I was talking about in the last podcast, where it kind of felt rushed and like things kind of just happened, or not things happened, but like there's a character that's kind of like a main antagonist in this. I'm like, who the hell are you? Apparently he was in a book, but it just didn't have time to really introduce him properly in this game, which is kind of lame. And it's kind of, it also double sucks because again, he's like sort of like a main antagonist in this game, but I don't really feel anything like when I was fighting him because I'm like, well, like I just don't care. So yeah, that's what I mean by a lot of the third act felt very rushed. You know, the game only had 2 years of development, while Mass Effect 1 and 2, I believe, had 3 years. So yeah, definitely you could feel that loss of that like year of development. Like if this game came out in 2013 instead of 2012, I think this game would have been like even better than 2. But because it isn't, I think it still falls a little short of Mass Effect 2. And I mean, even up to the end, like even up to like the final like planet you do, I thought it was really good. Again, it felt kind of rushed, but for what they did, I thought it was really good. You know, some plot points I'm like, okay, that kind of felt a little abrupt, but I could deal with it. And then the very end happened. I'm like, oh, this is the part people hate. I'm like, it was so clear to me where I'm like, oh, this is exactly the part. I know why now. But luckily, I am playing with all the DLCs, so I get the extended ending, which helps a lot. You could tell where the original game ended. I'm like, wow, that's bad. I could see why people hated that. But the extended cut does show a lot more context about what just happened, which is really nice. And it just makes things a lot more clear. So, yeah, with the extended cut, the ending is actually just, it's okay. You know, it's not the greatest thing ever, but it kind of ended how I thought it was going to end it, and I thought that was fine. I know a lot of people don't like that, oh, you only have like 3 choices or whatever, but I don't know, that never really bothered me. Like, I know Life is Strange, people bitch about that, like, oh, you only really have 2 endings, but, like, oh, none of your other choices matter. But I think Mass Effect 3 really, you know, a lot of its other quest lines and missions really would be different if you did things differently in the first 2 games, so I thought that was fine. I think they did it about as well as you could, because man, this game could be a mess of like how much things they would have to think about, like, oh, why would the player did this or that. So I'm okay with 3 endings, honestly, and like only 2 of them really make sense anyway. The third ending is like kind of stupid, so I don't even know why that's there. So yeah, for the most part, it was pretty good. The final DLC I did, the Citadel DLC, which is like mostly like a goodbye DLC, because I think that came out like a year later, was really good. Like it's basically just like a shit post DLC where everyone's just having fun. It's a party and stuff, and it was like hilarious and just really like endearing too. Like it's very wholesome. I really enjoyed it, and that was the last thing I did. I was gonna do it before the final mission, but my brother's like, no, you should do this one last. I'm like, and I can see why. It's a good farewell to all these characters and stuff that I spent like 100+ hours like playing through. So yeah, overall, the Mass Effect series is really goddamn good. I think the third one does get more shit than it deserves. I think with the extended cut DLC and all the other DLCs and, just all the other times in the oven it had after the game came out, I think the game's actually really good now. Again, I think it falls just a bit short of 2 just because the final bits aren't nearly as good as 2's. Because, again, like I said, when I talked about Mass Effect 2, I think that ending mission is probably some of the best I've did like in any game ever. It's so goddamn good. But yeah, as an overall package, I think it's fantastic. I think the Legendary Edition is a great way to experience all these games really seamlessly. You could export all your character data from one game to another like really easily. Everything just feels very smooth. It's just really good. $60 for like 100+ hours of content. That's all really good. I definitely think that's worth it. So yeah, if you have any interest in Mass Effect as a series, then yeah, I definitely think the Legendary Edition is definitely worth the money. I had a fantastic time, and hopefully the new Mass Effect game they're making is good, because Andromeda probably wasn't really that great. I probably am gonna play that at some point, but not right now because I'm kind of burnt out on Mass Effect. I just played all 3 of them in like a row. So but yeah, great series. And second, Final Fantasy 14. So usually I won't have much to say because I'm just doing my normal Final Fantasy 14 stuff, but I kind of want to talk about all the like crazy things that have been happening with the game. Okay, so we're on like 4 months until Endwalker comes out, which is the next expansion. And usually those are like pretty slow for any MMO. There's not really any content for a few months, so people either take breaks or they do things that they've been meaning to do for a bit and just try to get some stuff done. And I know that's what I'm doing right now. There's a lot of things I want to get done before Endwalker comes out. But yeah, usually this part of the game is dead for a little bit until Endwalker comes out. But that will change because a big WoW streamer, started recently playing Final Fantasy 14 because he's been very upset about how WoW has been going. A lot of people have been, actually. So he started streaming the game on my server, which is fun because I get really long queue times now, but whatever. And that really brought a lot of new people in. And it's not just him. It was like almost everyone did a mass exodus of WoW to Final Fantasy 14. Like I've never seen this many new players before. Like I walked into like to a beginning city state and just see all new players because they have like a little sprout icon next to their name. And it's honestly like really cool. Like every time I do like a duty roulette, which like I just go through like random dungeons and I get bonus rewards or whatever. It's usually just all new players. So I have fun like, oh, okay, this is how you do this is how you do that. And everyone looks at me like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't even remember what this dungeon is. So yeah, it's honestly it's really endearing seeing so many new people play this game. And I think it's just a really healthy thing for the game. I think Final Fantasy 14 has just been slowly getting better and better and better ever since A Realm Reborn came out. And seeing that progress, as someone who's been playing this game since like 2014 or 2013, it's really cool to see, Final Fantasy 14 really being like the spotlight from a lot of people. I mean, it's always been popular, and it's, now it's even more popular. Like, Endwalker pre-orders have been up like 3 times Shadowbringers have been. And the game actually ran out of digital copies, apparently. I didn't even know that could happen, but apparently that happened too. So yeah, the game has definitely been popping off lately. And I think it's a great time to actually get into the game. You have a good 4 months until Endwalker comes out, and you could definitely beat all the story before then. It's a lot of content, but I definitely think it's worth it. It is some of the best JRPGs I play, since like each expansion feels like its own JRPG. And again, if you're looking for a good MMO, it's also a great MMO too. So you get you get both good things right there. So yeah, Final Fantasy 14 is really good. You should all play it. It's really good. And that's basically all I want to say. Besides that, I was just doing like a bunch of grinding stuff and stuff I haven't done yet. So it's not that interesting to talk about for me playing it. But yeah, you all should play it. It's really good.
All right, so now we're going to get into our MCU talk, starting with Black Widow. So first, we're going to do a quick no spoiler review, very quick, I guess like a sentence or 3. So I'll start. I think that Black Widow, you know what you're getting into. This is a prequel movie about Black Widow, who, if you watched Infinity War and Endgame, you know what happens to her. So there's not a lot of stakes here. You kind of know how it's going to end. But that's just the crutch of anything that's like a prequel media, like whether it was Life is Strange Before the Storm, like that was a prequel game, exactly how it's gonna start and end. And even with like I guess the prequel trilogy with the Star Wars movies, how that's gonna end. So because this is a prequel movie, it suffers from that, but that's just how it is. It's definitely watchable. I think that this is not the worst MCU movie that they've released ever. I think that there are definitely far worse ones, and definitely far worse modern ones. Ant-Man 2, I'm looking at you. But Black Widow is watchable. I had a good time watching it, especially in theaters with a pretty decent amount of people in it. Them laughing at the dumbass jokes that I was definitely not laughing at. But it's fun to be back in theaters and watching a Marvel movie again. And yeah, it was definitely a enjoyable experience. I'm not gonna say it's within my top 5 or even top 10 MCU movies, but it's definitely watchable is what I'll keep saying.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way. I actually liked it a little more than I thought I would, just because my expectations were kind of low, because I just didn't. I didn't really care that much, because again, like we know what happens to Black Widow at the end of Endgame, and I'm just like, oh, is there like too much of a point to watch this?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was. I thought it was really enjoyable. Again, I thought it's not the best thing ever, but I definitely did enjoy it a lot. There was a lot of dynamics I actually really enjoyed about the movie. But like you said with the humor, it's very MCU humor at this
Yeah,
point. Like, you kind of know what you're getting into. So I feel like I've seen these jokes like 40 times already. So I'm just like, it doesn't really get me that much. But yeah, I thought the action was all really good. I really, again, like I said, I really like I want to say like all the characters, like besides like Black Widow herself. I thought she was fine, but they didn't really do much with her as I thought they were gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was an alright movie. It was pretty solid. It definitely hits more of like the Captain America movies, where it's more like spy stuff as you would expect, and more like hand-to-hand combat, because like they're not all crazy superheroes. So and that's always refreshing to see whenever you watch MCU stuff. So yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty decent. I think it was worth a watch. I watched it with the premiere access. I didn't watch it during theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just watched it last night on my bed, which was pretty cool. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good.
All right, so now we're going to talk about spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers or just don't care, you can continue listening or not. So yeah, spoilers for Black Widow start now. So yeah, I think that the third act really fell apart for me, in my opinion, just because of the whole the fucking aroma bullshit that like threw in there.
The pheromone thing?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That fucking meme with like the football coach or whatever, where like he fucking takes the headset off? Bro, when he mentioned that, I looked right at my brother. I was like, no fucking shot. And also when like, it kept going back and forth between, them in the house and them sort of like body swapping or whatever.
Right.
Like them to sort of like use that as a way to like explain everything. I was like, okay, all right, I get it. You guys are trying to be clever and everything, but like, how the fuck did she know about the pheromones too? But yeah, like that was definitely like my biggest gripe with it, with this movie in general. But yeah, I mean, I still had a fun time with it. I definitely liked Black Widow's sister, quote unquote. I thought that she was a very, very fun character, and it seems like that they're going to be doing more with her, just by the after credit scene, which brought in that character from The Winter Soldier,
Seinfeld.
Yeah.
It was Elaine.
Yep, her. She's, I guess, doing stuff or whatever. So I wonder how that's gonna play into the other movies or the other shows or whatever the hell is gonna happen. So this is definitely the first time we've seen the MCU shows and movies sort of cross over directly, which is very cool. Even though it is in a very quick after credit scene. But yeah, I thought that what's his name? The guy named Red Guardian. David Harbour, he's a fantastic actor. He did his part as usual. But his character, I don't know, like he was definitely there for like laughs and stuff. So I didn't feel like they did his character justice just from like, on paper, I felt. I don't know if you can sort of see what I'm saying here, but
I can see what you mean. I don't know like too much about the Red Guardian, if he's even like a real like character in the MCU canon. I guess he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really say much about that. But yeah, again, he was a very comic relief character, like just a jokey character, which it was fine. I mean, I kind of did like the family dynamic when they were all together as a whole. I thought that was pretty cool. It was honestly was the most enjoyable part of the movie, for me anyway. And again, like you said, I really liked the sister. She was pretty cool, and seeing more of her. And I guess in the Hawkeye show, because there's gonna be a Hawkeye show, right?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So
She might have been cast for that already. I don't remember, but
oh, okay. Because I guess that's where the ending credits is gonna lead to, where she's like, oh, like Hawkeye killed Black Widow, but even though he
oh
didn't,
yeah,
but you know,
oh my
yeah.
god, bro, the people in theaters were like, I'm like, yo, y'all gotta chill.
Yeah. Like, what? I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, but yeah. So she's probably gonna be like, the antagonist for a little bit, and then the Hawkeye's like, yo, hold up though. But
hmm
yeah. But like I was saying, I think the family dynamic was probably my favorite part of the movie. I like the mom as well. Or I forgot what her name was. I forgot what any of the names
Yeah,
were.
same. I'm
But yeah,
gonna be
the
honest.
manga actor was cool too. Just the whole Black Widow project and seeing how it actually worked, because like we only got like a few flashbacks of Black Widow's stuff, like a little bit. I forgot what movie showed like some of the flashbacks.
It
where she
was
doing
Age of
that.
Ultron.
Age of
Because
Ultron,
I've
right?
watched
Yeah,
that movie
that's
multiple
why.
times because I
Why?
actually kind of like that movie. I'm gonna be honest.
You like
but
Age of Ultron? I watched it once and I thought it was alright. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, we only saw a little bit of like how the Black Widow project actually worked and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see it from the inside and see how like the all like basically like sleeper agents and all this stuff. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I thought the pheromone lock was kind of stupid. I'm like, okay, like that didn't need to be there. Like it did feel a little too fantastical and stuff. Like I think they explained everything pretty well, with just like microchips and just training them like to just be loyal, whatever. But yeah, the whole pheromone thing was just like kind of stupid. Taskmaster, I think some people didn't like Taskmaster in this movie. I thought it was a cool twist that was like the daughter she killed or thought she killed. I'm like, all right, that's cool, I guess. But I guess it does cheapen Taskmaster as a villain anyway, because he's not really like a villain in this. He's more just like a twist thing or I guess she's just more of a twist thing. So it kind of sucks. Taskmaster really isn't in the MCU. Really, he was just kind of a plot device, I guess. But
yeah,
that's whatever. So.
I mean,
I think those are my major complaints with it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, going on Twitter and sort of complaining about Taskmaster, like that's valid. I think that just because Taskmaster has been in a lot of recent Marvel media, such as the Spider-Man game and the Marvel and the not Marvel game, the Avengers game. Those two in particular really showing or introducing a lot of people to who Taskmaster really is. And then in this movie, also introducing a lot of people who Taskmaster is, but not exactly. It's sort of like the whole Mandarin plot twist, which, personally, I'm a huge fan of. I really do like Iron Man 3. But I think that the way that Taskmaster was done in this one, like I can see what they were doing, trying to connect it back to our main antagonist, but also connect it back to that mission in Budapest or whatever. So, I could see what they were doing, but obviously it didn't work for everybody. Clearly, if you look on the internet, did it work for me personally? I'm sort of indifferent about it. Like I said, I understand what Marvel Studios was trying to do with this version of Taskmaster, but I think because of how delayed this movie became, a lot of people were introduced to Taskmaster through other forms of media. And even then, I think that even if this movie were to release on schedule, a lot of people who played the Spider-Man game would have known who Taskmaster was through like those side missions and everything like that. So, Taskmaster was, I guess, a cool, fight or whatever. But even then, oh my god, the fight with the Red Guardian, how it ended had me really, really upset in theaters. I was like, is that how it ends? Are you serious? Like they just throw him into the or they throw her into the sort of like jail cell and then like
the cage thing.
I'm like, that's it, that's how it ends. Like we don't get like a full blown fight. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like the place is blowing up. MCU stuff is happening, whatever. So, but yeah, I thought that Taskmaster was whatever. I think that the movie itself is whatever, obviously, just because, it's about Black Widow and how, it happens in between Civil War and Infinity War, which, they do certain things to sort of connect it back. There was like a scene where like Black Widow was holding the blonde hair dye, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess, like she was contemplating about doing that for a little bit before they showed us the scene later on. But yeah, I think that overall, like you said, the other characters, the whole family dynamic, them showing the whole beginning part of the movie probably lost some people. probably lost some people at first. I'm gonna be honest, just because of it's not clear as to like who's who and who's what. Because like I didn't know who Black Widow was until like a little later in that first act, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I think that them fleshing out Black Widow's story the way they did was fine, but obviously this movie came a little too late in a lot of people's eyes, and I think that that is a valid opinion to have, just because she's dead in the goddamn MCU, so like this movie doesn't really have any ramifications for future stuff. Maybe for the Hawkeye show, just because they introduced the sister, but even then, I don't think that this movie is going to be fully required for that. But who knows, So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this movie definitely does feel like it came out way too late because it was supposed to come out really early. Like, if it wasn't for the whole ending credits scene, I say like you could just watch this like after Civil War or something, right? Or before Civil War, whenever they were having their fallout, the Avengers were having their fallout, because this movie would basically fit perfectly there. Like, I don't know why this was a Phase 4 movie until the very end, where I'm like, okay, that's how it's gonna connect to like everything else, I guess. But it did feel kind of shoehorned in, like, okay, we're just gonna put this in here because we had to make it fit, like now, like currently, because there isn't really much point for Black Widow to get anything. And even then, I don't think Black Widow got a lot of things in this movie. Like, we basically, like, I don't know, I feel like her character is still basically the same. Like, I don't know, we didn't really learn that much about her. It was more about everyone else around her that was more interesting than her. But I don't know. I guess that's for the best because again, she's dead, so it doesn't really matter in the end. But yeah, for what it was, I thought it was alright. It definitely feels like a side quest like thing. Like, you don't have to watch this movie if you really don't want to. Like, if you just want to get caught up with any of the future MCU stuff, just watch like the last like 2 minutes. Like, that's probably the only important thing really in there. But yeah, I think it's still a decent watch. Like, if you have time, I think it's worth the watch, but definitely not like necessary at all.
Yeah, I think that them introducing the sister and how she's going to play later on, that's definitely going to probably validate how worthy this movie is. I mean, like right now it seems, very, very like you don't really need to watch it, but it is still like a fun watch overall. But I think that, we got to see Black Widow's upcoming. We got to see how the Black Widows are made in general. And yeah, I think that I'm okay with how the movie turned out because, like what else can I really expect from a prequel movie about Black Widow, who is a character that is no longer in the MCU. So,
Yeah, it's a very awkward time. Like, you could tell obviously this movie was supposed to come out at least like a year or two like earlier, but just didn't. So yeah, now we're kind of stuck with it just feeling kind of awkward now within like the MCU canon. So yeah, it's just not much else to really say about it besides it was pretty good. And if you have time, watch it. If you don't really feel like it's necessary, you can like skip it. I don't think there's really much in here that you need to like watch. But I still think it was pretty alright.
Yeah. So now let's move on to Loki. So we're gonna do full spoilers for this because this is on Disney Plus, and I don't think there's reason to do a non-spoiler thing.
Right.
Because it's on Disney Plus. So if you have Disney Plus, you can watch it, and then if not, there's links and websites online that you can check out. I'm not gonna say which ones, but anyways, Loki, season 1. Let's just like talk about it overall, like in general.
Okay.
So I think that. I agree with the sentiment that this is definitely the best sort of like MCU show so far. I actually liked Falcon and Winter Soldier just because, it was just, dumb action, and we got to see Sam Wilson become Captain America, which was very cool. And WandaVision, still a very, very good show. I think that it just didn't land on its feet. But we did get to see Wanda do some pretty cool stuff and sort of see on how she dealt with grief. And then with this one just sort of goes everywhere. It sort of goes balls to the wall with this version of Loki, and we get to see on how he sort of deals with his character development again, but like in a different way with different characters and in a different world with the TVA and everything like that. And, when we got to the end of it, it obviously led to the sort of multiverse stuff, which, some people are very much like, all right, now drop the Spider-Man trailer, Disney, just fucking do it. Yep. Just fucking do it now, because now we know that this is 100% multiverse shit. So yeah, I think that, this show is definitely going to have the most implication on the future MCU stuff just because of that sort of ending part. But yeah, overall, I really, really enjoyed Loki season one a lot more than I thought I would. And even, I'm sure that you can go back from previous episodes of the podcast and, quote us saying that, the first two, three, even like 4 or 5 episodes were very, very good. So,
Yeah, I mean, I basically feel the exact same way you do. Like, I loved Loki. Like, it probably is my favorite MCU show right now as well. And I already thought the other two were really good. But this show, definitely for me is like the best one. I think it's the most creative. It has so many cool locations. Obviously Loki as a character already, he's like a fan favorite anyway, so he does
mhm.
a great job in the show as well. And just all the supporting characters too. Like Sylvie is great. Mobius is really good. All the other TVA people. So yeah, I just everything about the show is just really well done. And it also helps that this probably has the most. Well, it definitely does have the most importance to the just Phase 4 in the future, the MCU in general, because it's opening the multiverse like stuff, which
Mhm.
seems to be very important for this next phase with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. So that's gonna be very interesting to like see how that unfolds. And we have like a new main villain now, I guess, with this dude. I forgot what his
Yeah,
name is, like Kong
yeah,
or something.
Krang or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, he's probably gonna be like the new like sort of like Thanos for like Phase 4. So yeah, it definitely opens up a lot of cool possibilities, and I think now they could safely show trailers for Doctor Strange and for Spider-Man, because now that we know what's gonna happen, they could probably show that more safely now.
Mhm.
But yeah, just overall, I thought it was just really really goddamn good. I really enjoyed Loki a lot.
Yeah, I think that the finale, and I mean, like the show, a lot of the show is just people talking, them getting to
Yeah.
know each other, and I think that this finale really does speak to that because when it's Kang and Loki and Sylvie just talking to each other, and he knows everything that's gonna happen, and then the moment he does it. I think that that's when like things get very interesting because you really do get to see the two sort of go at it with Loki and Sylvie sort of fighting there, but also it's also sort of like metaphorically with them sort of like battling each other like their morals, I guess, and sort of like their thought process to show how much they've changed or haven't changed as characters from where we saw them in episode 1 to the end of the show now. And yeah, I thought that, Sylvie obviously opening up the goddamn, multiverse and killing Kang and seeing how all of that stuff happened, that was obviously uh I wouldn't say a twist that I expected, but I'm not sure if she's gonna let this go because she's been on the run for however many years as she's been gone for. Like she was literally a little girl when she was captured by the TVA, and now she's a full grown woman when we get to the end of the show. So she's been doing this shit for a while. So you know what? I don't blame her for killing Kang the Conqueror and doing all of that other shit. But now we get to go and see Jonathan Mayers, who played as Kang, sort of play different versions of himself, and just seeing him within this episode alone, he did a very very good job, sort of like selling us this character. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to go and see what happens in maybe even season 2 of Loki because this is the first MCU show that has been confirmed for a season 2, but also if he appears in other MCU movies and whatnot. But yeah, I think that the ending itself, I thought that it was fitting. The sort of like romance that happened between them, I think that was kind of obvious, maybe a little too on the nose with how the writing and sort of how it was like building up between them two. But yeah, it is what it is. Tough love, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually also really like how the finale. I mean, mostly the whole show itself was more dialogue and talking, because I think
hmm
that's just what Loki is good at, right? Like he's good at manipulating, telling lies, and all this stuff. He's not really known for fighting.
hmm
So I'm really happy like the ending, like sort of fight was more just between like the ideologies between Loki and Sylvie, and just like, oh, is he bluffing? Is he lying? What's going on? Like she didn't know if she like you didn't know if he was just spouting a bunch of bullshit when he's saying, oh, if you kill me, like all the timelines are gonna diverge and stuff, and the multiverse is gonna open up. She didn't know that he was actually telling the truth or not. And even then, I think it's probably better to like kill him anyway, since having a sacred timeline really wasn't working with too many people anyway. So just freeing all the multiverses does seem like the best decision, even if they have to deal with a bunch of him. Like that the only way to really like get rid of him is just to really get rid of him.
hmm
So I thought that was I thought that was a cool little thing there. And just him as a villain, like I very really like him as a villain. Like I thought he was very like pretty threatening and funny, like just just that version of him, and this is like apparently like his nicest version of himself, you know what I mean? Like this is like the peaceful one, so I can't wait to see one that's like full blown, just like gonna conquer everything. That's gonna be really fun as well. And I actually think they say he's supposed to be the main villain for the other Ant-Man movie as well, which makes sense. I think he's gonna be the main villain for a lot of the Marvel shows now, or what do you call it, Marvel movies now, just because they could do so many different versions of him, which is gonna be really cool. And yeah, it just opens up so many possibilities. Now we definitely know that the other Spider-Mans could come from these multiverses now. So it basically has to be them from the other multiverses at this point. So yeah, it really opens the door to a lot of things, you know, a lot of cool things for the Phase 4. And just for the show itself, you know, I got really attached to just Loki, like, and all the TVA stuff. And I'm happy they are continuing that Loki storyline as well. You know, like what happened to Sylvie, or like why did Mobius not notice him? Is he in a different dimension now? Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, that definitely raises a lot of questions. I'm very excited to see where the show goes and how it's going to take the MCU in general. So yeah, if you don't have time, well, I mean, you probably wouldn't be watching this unless you actually watched it, but this is definitely the most important like MCU show. Like I think Kevin Feige even said like, hey, if you're gonna watch any of the shows, watch this one. So yeah, and he wasn't lying. So yeah, just overall, I thought the show was great. And like I said with the romance, yeah, it's pretty obvious it was gonna happen. I mean, I think most people thought it was gonna happen, and I think they made a good job not making it that weird. Because, you know, it is himself, you know, self-cess, you know?
Self-cess doesn't exist, guys. You can't fuck yourself. I'm like, that's not going to happen. There's not going to be a female version of yourself out there, okay, guys? So stop gatekeeping self-cess. This shit doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter.
I didn't know that was going to trigger such a rigorous response.
I'm just echoing what Cosmonaut Marcus said on his little Loki quickie. That's pretty much what he said. All right, guys, self-cess isn't fucking real, so it doesn't fucking matter. All right, but you know, gatekeep what you want. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, it also matches. Even if you're gonna say it's weird, you know, Loki is really narcissistic. He probably would fall in love with himself. So I thought that was pretty just like a nice thing. And a lot of characters mentioned how it's kind of weird, but it's like, you know, it's whatever. So
I mean, you know, it's whatever, guys.
I mean, I don't think it's weird. I think they obviously established them as different characters at this point. Like, she doesn't feel like a Loki besides her powers. Like, she feels like her own person anyway. You know, like all the other, like when we went to the Loki dimension, well, not the Loki dimension, but where all the other Lokis were, you know, they felt like Loki. Sylvie definitely feels different from the others. So, yeah, that is, you know, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I just really liked most of the main cast of characters, you know, like Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius, you know, like all of them were pretty good. I do agree with the sort of sentiment that Renslayer, whatever her name was, the one that was of like, you know, it's because of the TVA, you know, like despite her knowing the goddamn truth, you know, she was so trying to accomplish what the TVA wanted. And I'm like, why is she doing this? You know, like why is she sort of still on? Well, okay, go on.
I was gonna say, I just gonna get a little deep here, but I guess it's kind of like religion, right? Like if let's say aliens existed, right, and like it kind of disproves that we're like created by God or something. People will freak out, right? Because like their faith is destroyed at that point, because it's kind of like, oh, life does exist in other places or whatever. So, and then you would freak out, right? So I guess she's just like, well, we have to have a purpose, right? Like, why else were we created for? We're not just variants, right? Like we have to have some faith. Like we're here for a reason, right? So I guess that's why she's freaking out about it, which seems like a pretty natural response for someone who lives like the whole life as a lie and stuff. Or like they believe in something and then get shattered just like that. So I kind of get it, and I know my example is a little extreme there, but you know that's kind of the most I could equate it to, is like if your religion was straight up proven like wrong, like you could prove God just like is fake and everything is fake and stuff, like I guess you would just have a weird like lack of faith and hope and stuff. But I guess that's what she was going through and why she was acting a little weird and stuff. But yeah, I guess that's just my explanation of why she was acting the way she was acting, you know?
Yeah, and I definitely, that scene in the finale where we got to see her as I guess, a principal, I want to know more about that, you know?
She was just assigned like a principal or something.
I was like, shit, you know? Like, I definitely want to know more about that stuff. So hopefully Loki Season 2 will deliver. But yeah, I think that, you know, Mobius, you know, when he was quote unquote killed, and then, you know, instantly brought back. Like that was something that I was, a little upset about because Mobius and Loki, they definitely had that dynamic going from episode 1, and I really liked their interactions. And really, like when Loki's just like on screen, Tom Hiddleston, like he loves this character, he loves playing as Loki, and I'm sure that a lot of people can agree with this, that he really did bring his A game for this show, and I cannot wait to see him back in as the character, most likely within season 2, because they didn't kill him off at the end. He sort of was just defeated, the fact that Sylvie didn't trust him, but Loki's can't trust people, I guess. But then again, she is her own character at this point, and she went through a lot of shit that we probably don't know more about, other than the fact that she's been on the run ever since she was a little girl. But yeah, all of the main cast of characters were pretty good. I think the side characters, they suffered a little bit, but then again, you can't really, make every single character really strong, especially within only 6 episodes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just think a lot about this show is just really good. Like I would put it up there with even some of my favorite MCU movies in general. Like it's just a very unique show, and I just really enjoyed everything it had to offer. And I'm very excited to see how season 2 is gonna fit in with just like how it continues the storyline, and if Loki could find Sylvie and stuff, but also just how it's just gonna fit within the MCU like canon. I don't know if like Loki's gonna be the one to actually finish off like this whole thing or what. Like it's just gonna be very interesting. So really looking forward to the future of Phase 4, because actually wasn't really sure where they could even go after Thanos, right? Like Thanos like wiped out half the life of the universe. I'm like, you can't really do more than that. I was thinking about Galactus, but like Galactus is kind of just the same thing except he wants to kill everyone, but it's still kind of boring, right?
Yeah.
So having this whole multi-dimensional war stuff, I'm like, all right, that's pretty damn cool. So I am very excited for Phase 4 now, just thanks to this show. So, and again, I'm just excited for the show to continue in general because it was really good. So
yeah, just give us a Spider-Man trailer. That's all I want at
yeah,
this point.
please.
But I think that's all I really have to say about Loki. I think that there's nothing else on the top of my head that I could really think of. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian Podcast, episode 66. We will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
Later.